Good evening, friends. I hope everyone is safe and everyone is well, because in these times we need to be safe and well. Welcome to our webinar on current laboratory updates, which we call as NephroMed, from the renal diagnostic solutions which we have. And we hope you will find the session very useful and you would enjoy every part of it. And please feel free to ask us any questions. We would be delighted to answer all the queries which may be there. I just welcome you. Oh, so about us, Metropolis. We are the second largest diagnostic player in India. We have a presence in a multinational way in India, South Asia, Africa, and Middle East. We have 35 years of credible operations. We are accredited by ISO, NABL, APLC, and ILAC. We have 119 labs. We cable to individual patient touch points, which is about 1,761. We have institutional touch points, which is 9,575. Our panel of tests is 4,000 plus tests, and including good panels. We have a highly qualified team of phlebotomists, and we have a lot of super specialties, gastro, neuro, onco, and nephro. And today we are talking about the nephro part. Our journey was started in 1981, and we had the first referral lab set up, which was done by our founder and chairman, Dr. Sushil Shah. He started on commenced on clinical research services, which was in 1992. In 2003 was the first major acquisition, which was Sudharma, that is Kerala, started home service over there. Capital infusion by ICICI Ventures came in 2006. 2010, there was a secondary transaction by Warburg Pincus. Expansion to developing African countries started in 2013. Warburg Pincus exited in 2015, and management control by promoters and entry was of Carroll happened. The new professional management team and rollout of Metropolis retail strategy happened in 2016. There was successful launch, of course. We went into an IPL mode, and the launch went more than 5.8 times over subscription and listings. And currently, we are strong thrusting into the retail frontier section expansion. And of course, we have done our first private-public partnership with in NACO. So we are now going to be talking about NephroMed. NephroMed is a specialized offering from Metropolis Healthcare, which works towards promoting comprehensive pathology solutions to nephrology and transplant immunology segment. It's got a good menu. It has report, which we have, all of us across the group have done, and the report has been done with experienced pathologists and latest state-of-art technologies. The capabilities are great. It offers expert and unique test panels for rapid diagnosis of nephrology ailments and transplant cases, advanced cutting-edge technology for accurate reports, and it is trusted by a lot of cross of thousands of nephrologists and transplant immunologists. We have got very experienced senior pathologists and also NABL and CAP accredited testing centers, which covers it. The diseases which we cover are usually from chronic kidney failure to polycystic kidney disease to kidney stones, renal dysfunctions, transplant immunology, HLA typing, and kidney biopsies also. Number of tests, I believe Dr. Sanjay, who is our speaker, to tell you about that. And of course, we can give you any expert opinion on any interpretive test report formats which you would like. Our speaker of today is Dr. Sanjay Gohil. Dr. Sanjay Gohil is MBBS and MD pathology from Mumbai. He has done an LTMMC, and I'm very proud of that. I didn't know that this is the same college which I did my graduation from. He is ex-assistant professor at JJ and Medical College, Grant Medical College, and JJ Group of Hospitals. Currently, he is HOD and hematology and doctor in charge of the transplant immunology team, the Global Reference Lab in Metropolis. He has 7 years of lab medicine experience. His key areas of interest are hematopathology, transplant immunology, quality assurance, of course, because we all believe in quality assurance with good lab practices, automations in laboratory, and lab management. He has got various publications in national and international journals, and he has been academic speaker in various CMEs. First, his membership in associations are with IAPM, the Pathologist Association of Maharashtra, Mumbai Hematology Group, and Thane Hematology Group. Welcome, and I request Dr. Sanjay to please take over the presentation. Over to you, Dr. Sanjay. I will stop.
Good evening, ma'am. Thank you for that warm introduction, ma'am. I would first like to thank the Metropolis for giving me this opportunity for presenting this HLA, which is a complicated and specialized area of subject. This can be a dry subject for some of the audiences. So I would like to start with the basic of HLA typing and what tests we perform in Metropolis GRL lab. I just share my screen. So for giving the overview of transplant immunology testing available at the Metropolis GRL reference lab, before I start with the actual topic, let me take you through the NephroDOS, which is our, my slides are moving. So NephroMed, as Dr. Anita ma'am has already described about the NephroMed specialty of the Metropolis division. So it is a specialized offering from the Metropolis, which works towards providing the comprehensive pathology solution, and it is a one-point solution for the nephrology and transplant immunology cases. We provide the 40+ tests with unique and comprehensive panels with interpretative test reports from the expert opinion. So NephroMed offerings consisted of basic renal tests, serology, transplant immunology related tests, and NGS related tests. And various diseases covered are the polycystic kidney diseases, kidney stone, renal dysfunction, renal function test, GFR, various types of GFR, drug monitoring, which is very important in monitoring of transplant patient for the tacrolimus, cyclosporine, and everolimus. Other services we provide it's an expert opinion and interpretative test report formats. So there is a dedicated team of the doctors who works under the NephroMed at Metropolis from various departments like transplant immunology and immunogenetics, chemistry, surgical pathology, and infectious molecular pathology. So our transplant immunology and immunogenetics department is NABL accredited. So let me start with the topic with the to start with the basic of HLA typing to better understanding of this topic. So what is HLA? HLA is a part of major histocompatibility complex. These are nothing but the cell surface antigen which takes part in the immune system response against the foreign cells or antigen that enter the body. During organ transplantation, that can lead to the rejection of the allograft. These HLA antigens are seen on chromosome 6. So this is a structure of chromosome 6. On short arm of chromosome 6, HLA A, B, and C, which are the class 1 antigen, which are present on all the nucleated cells are situated. And class 2 antigen like DR, DQ, and DP, which are present only on the B lymphocytes and dendritic cells. So what is this pattern of inheritance of this HLA? So every individual has a distinct HLA pattern inherited from their parents. So offspring will be haploidentical, inheriting one pattern from each of their parents. What is identical HLA typing? When there is a complete matching of all the alleles in both the donor and recipient, it is known as a identical HLA typing. Haploidentical when there is a half of alleles are matched, and non-identical when there is a half of less than the half of the matches found for the alleles. So this is a common pattern of inheritance from the mother and father. So there are different permutation and combination of HLA antigen possible in the children. So besides a role in organ transplantation, there are other application of HLA like in the transfusion therapy, disease association, disputed paternity, and cancer prevention and anthropological studies. These are some of the disorders which are strongly associated with the HLA. For like HLA-B27, there is a relative risk of 87.4% developing ankylosing spondyloarthritis. Similarly, is seen with the Behcet syndrome, where the loci B5 and B51 are associated with the Behcet syndrome in 5.8% of the cases. For solid organ transplantation, we generally require the antigen level typing for the HLA-A, B, and DR antigen. For hematopoietic stem cell transplantation, we require the all common well-defined alleles to be studied, and that's why the high resolution HLA typing by the NGS platform is necessary in cases of hematopoietic stem cell transplantation. So there are three methods of HLA detection: serology, cellular, molecular. I won't go in the detail of the serology because it is a old gold standard and used to be a gold standard, but now it is superseded by the molecular technique because the molecular techniques are more accurate, specific, and with the advanced technology. So serological method is done by the complement dependent cytotoxicity method. It is very simple, reproducible, and sensitive assay. But there are some disadvantages, like it is a manual method, requires a large volume of blood, requires a viable lymphocytes, and difficult to find good anti-sera for rarer antigen in different population. And there are lots of cross reactivities seen in the serological method. So this is replaced by the molecular method, where three techniques are available for the molecular typing: SSOP, SSP, and SBT. We do the Luminex cross-match by using the PCR sequence-specific oligonucleotide probes, that is a SSOP method. Advantages of the molecular method are they are more accurate, specific with the advanced technology, and the sample requirement is very minimal. And the viability of the lymphocyte is not very essential, which is very crucial in the cadaveric transplantation. To give you the overview about the cross-matching, so basically the aim of the cross-match is to identify the preformed antibodies in the recipient against a donor. These antibodies are developed because of the various sensitization event like multiple pregnancy, blood transfusion, previous transplantation, viral or bacterial infections. So there are three types of cross-match methods are available: complement-dependent cytotoxicity method by serology, flow cross-match, and virtual cross-match by donor-specific antibody assay by Luminex. We will go through one by one through these methods. Cross-match CDC or tissue cross-match was pioneered by the Terasaki and colleagues in the 1960s. In this method, patient serum is incubated with the donor lymphocyte, and the positive reaction, which is the cell lysis, is indicated that the donor is not compatible with the recipient. So in this flow chart, we basically see from the EDTA blood, lymphocytes are separated. The separated lymphocytes are incubated with the recipient serum on Terasaki plate with the rabbit complement and adding the eosin Y. And this reaction is interpreted under the phase contrast microscope. So during the interpretation, we see these are non-refractile small cells you can see are the dead cells, and the large refractile cells are the viable cells. So in this method, we report the percentage of the dead cell as per the ASHI guideline, and the scoring is given as up to 20% cell death, it is considered as a negative. For more than 20% cell death, it is considered as a positive. And scoring is from 0 to 8. 8 is a strongly positive CDC cross-match, and it is highly contraindicated for the transplantation. There are some limitations for the CDC cross-match, like it can give a false positive, false negative result, and it is very subjective test with the trained eye. So false result can be due to the presence of IgM type of autoantibodies, which can be overcome technically by using the DTT reagent or heat inactivating the serum. False negative can be due to the low titer of donor-specific antibody. The second type of cross-match is the flow cross-match. In flow cross-match, recipient serum is added to the donor lymphocyte, and then it is incubated with the fluorescein labeled antibodies against the human IgG. If there are antibodies against the donor lymphocyte, these will be detected by the flow cytometry, and results are expressed as a positive or negative based on the channel shift of the fluorescent intensity of the test serum. So how to interpret the flow cytometry cross-match? Let's go through the one of the case. A 35-year-old mother of 4 children has end-stage renal disease. Her husband offers to donate kidney to her. They are of matching blood groups and their tissue typing, and cross-match results are is shown in the below. Is it safe to proceed proceed with the transplantation in this case? Let's analyze. So for the HLA typing recipient and donor, there is haploidentical 3/6 match is seen. CDC cross-match is negative. Flow cross-match for the T and B cell is positive in this case. So there are two possibilities. So either the CDC cross-match is negative, it can be due to the low titer of donor-specific antibodies, or there are non-complement binding antibodies which cannot be detected by the CDC cross-match. And the flow cross-match being a very sensitive method, it detects even the minute amount of donor-specific antibody from the sample. So in such scenario where the donor was already sensitized with the multiple pregnancy and the blood transfusion, the flow cross-match and CDC cross-match should be interpreted with the clinical scenario. And such cases, it should be conjugated with the donor-specific assay. And if the donor-specific antibodies are in the low titer, then we can go ahead with the transplantation. But some of the clinicians would prefer a desensitization protocol to decrease the risk of early rejection of the graft. So the clinical scenario and the interpretation with the other CDC and the donor-specific antibody, it's very important in final prediction of the graft survival. Third type of cross-match is a virtual cross-match. In this virtual cross-match, the recipient serum is added to the mixture of synthetic beads. These synthetic beads contains multiple of antigen if it is a screening test, or more precise, it contains a single antigen alleles on the beads if it is a single antigen test. A unique dye signature specifies the identity of each bead. If anti-HLA antibodies are present in patient serum, then this antibody binds to this appropriate bead, and that can be detected by the reporter dye and measured in the Luminex cross-match. For interpretation of the virtual cross-match, let's go through one more case where a 50-year-old man who has end-stage renal failure as a result of reflux nephropathy has been on dialysis for 10 months. He has received multiple blood transfusions in the past. His wife has been assessed as a possible donor for him. The immune compatibility of the donor and the recipient is defined below. Whether it is safe to proceed with the transplantation. So HLA typing of the recipient and donor, in this case, there is a haploidentical, there is a 3/6 match we can see. CDC cross-match is negative, flow cross-match for the T and B cell is negative. But we found that the class 1 antibody against the donor antigen for the HLA A2, A22 and B13, and class 2 antigens are negative. So to proceed with the transplantation in the setting of the negative CDC and flow cross-match is generally considered as a low risk and is reasonable without a desensitization protocol. But in this case, the donor-specific antibodies are present, which has a prognostic significance for the transplanted kidney. So we should be further considering before proceeding ahead with the transplantation. So virtual cross-match can be offered at the time of cadaveric renal transplant as well as in the live-related transplant setting. While outcome of donor-specific positive transplant are inferior to the donor-specific negative transplant, a decision to proceed with the donor-specific antibody and CDC cross-match is negative in a highly sensitized recipient, maybe in some cases, maybe in the patient best interest. It is finally the clinician to decides whether to go ahead with the transplant in such cases or not, or to change the donor. So Luminex cross-match is the highest sensitive method. Then it comes with ELISA-based technology, and the complement-dependent cytotoxicity is the lowest sensitive method. Other Luminex-based assay are the donor-specific antibody. It detects basically the IgG antibody to donor-specific HLA to detect the preformed antibodies in the recipient. It is used for the pre-transplant antibody detection, for retrospective antibody detection, and pre and post-transplant immunological monitoring of the recipient. It is most sensitive and detects the low titer of the HLA antibody. It gives the result, specific results for the class 1 and class 2 antibodies. And it is a quantifiable assay based on the MFI values. Most of the labs consider 1,000 as their cutoff value, and more than 1,000, whatever results are there for the donor-specific antibodies, are considered as a positive donor-specific antibody. And in such cases, the further single antigen test should be done to know the significance of the donor-specific antibody. Low turnaround time, high throughput, suitable for the disease organ donation. Cell viability is not required for the DSA. And donor lysate can be preserved for the post-transplant monitoring up to 2 years at -80 degrees centigrade. PR is screening and identification, other Luminex-based assay. These are assays basically represents the proportion of the population to which the person being tested will react via pre-existing antibodies against a human leukocyte antigen. The PRA score is expressed as a percentage between 0 to 100%, and it quantifies the risk of transplant rejection in our sensitized patients. Single antigen test, it is the most specific technology. It identifies the patient sensitization to particular antigen. This is composed of different Luminex beads to which purified recombinant HLA class 1 and class 2 glycoproteins are conjugated. This is used for the compatible donor selection and the pre-transplant and post-transplant donor-specific antibody monitoring. So this is one of the algorithm for the initial pre-transplant compatibility testing, which is basically consisting of CDC crossmatch, Luminex crossmatch, and antibody screening. If all the three screening tests are negative, then we can go ahead with the transplant. If the CDC crossmatch is positive, Luminex crossmatch is positive, then we have to go for the single antigen test. And if it is a donor-specific antibody, then desensitization is required. If it is non-DSA, then transplant can be proceeded ahead. If the CDC crossmatch is negative, but the Luminex and antibody screen is positive, then also we have to go ahead with the single antigen test to look for the donor-specific antibody. If the CDC crossmatch and Luminex crossmatch is negative, but the antibody screening is positive, then we have to go for the single antigen test. In case of CDC crossmatch is positive and Luminex and antibody screen is negative, then we have to do the auto crossmatch. If it is of IgM type of autoantibodies is present, then we can go ahead with the transplant. If it is a IgG autoantibody, then we have to desensitize the patient before taking for the transplantation. Nowadays, some of the hospitals do perform the non-HLA antibody like MIC-A antibody. And if it is a positive, then it is a contraindication for the transplantation, and patient may require a desensitization. So in the transplant immunology, now the next generation sequencing is definitely a future for the transplant immunology, but it has a major role in the hematopoietic stem cell transplantation rather than in the solid organ transplantation. NGS comes with the 3-stage of preparation, with the library preparation, then sequencing, and then data analysis. As I told you, the recent advances mentions about the non-HLA antibody significance in the HLA transplantation. So these are some of the list of non-HLA antibodies which are present in the endothelial and epithelial surfaces, which has a significant role in the transplant survival and the graft rejection. The majorly antibodies studied are the MIC-A antibody for the non-HLA transplantation. The clinical utility of investigating these non-HLA antibodies lies with the recipient in the absence of HLA donor-specific antibody. To understand the time course of non-HLA antibody development and potential impact on transplant course, and to define the role of non-HLA antibody in combination with HLA DSA and a potential source for additive effect for graft injury in conjugation with the HLA-DASA. C3D-RC, basically C3D is a cleavage product of C3, which is a pathway, classical pathway complement system. It's a better way to determine if bound antibodies fixes the complement or not. In the many published papers, it is shown as a C3D is a better way of measuring prediction of the risk of graft loss. C3D may be a better predictor of oral or overall cascade of the complement pathway. So these are the general sample instructions to be followed for the sending the samples to the transplant immunology lab. The specimen should be collected preferably in ACD or ADTA vacuotinus and transported at the room temperature without any ice pack. With the referring doctor's note with the patient clinical condition, whether it's a CRF, it is for the hematological disorders, it's a donor is related or unrelated. These are required for the as per the Organ Transplant Act. This is a special test requisition form for the transplant immunology related test, where we have to you have to provide the colored photographs of the donor and recipient, and it should be countersigned by the referring clinician, and the other clinical information like the blood transfusion, previous dialysis, any previous transplantation should be given to the transplantation lab. These are some of the report formats from the HLA department. For the CDC crossmatch, where we give the percentage of dead lymphocyte scoring. DSA crossmatch, where class 1 and class 2 antibodies for the IgG with the MFI values are mentioned. PRA screening for the sensitized patient. For the HLA typing for the class 1 and class 2. And the summary report for the recipient and donor for the HLA typing. So let's go through some of the few interesting cases. Case number 1, a 43-year female with a history of CRF planned for a kidney transplant with mother-in-law as a prospective donor. HLA typing of the recipient and donor was done. There was a 0/6 match, non-allele identical, and the CDC crossmatch was done outside and it was negative. Transplant was performed. After 1 week, patient developed fever, decreased urine output, pain and tenderness over the transplanted site. Serum creatine burn were markedly raised and clinicians suspected of acute rejection. So they requested us for the single antigen test for the diagnosis of donor-specific antibodies. So this is a single antigen profile of the recipient, where you can see most of the donor means recipients antibodies are in more than 1,000. The maximum MFI value we can observe in the row value as a 4,900. So this recipient already had a donor-specific antibody against the donor's antigen in the class 1 and class 2. That has led to the organ rejection. So this case highlights the importance of doing the PRA screen in a sensitized patient and DSA and single antigen test before proceeding in the transplantation, especially when there is a 0/6 match in the recipient and the donor. Case number 2, a 27-year male with a history of CRF was a plan for a kidney transplant with sister as a prospective donor. Recipient and donor typing was done. They are HLA non-identical. So in India, basically the HLA typing is done to establish the relationship between the recipient and donor as per the Organ Transplant Act. But in this case, the recipient and donor are not HLA identical. So for this, the parental sample was requested by the clinician and we did the mother sample. So the recipient and donor 1, that is a sibling, and the donor 2, that is a mother, there was a 50% match. So that proved the relationship between the donor 1 and the recipient. So siblings can have 100%, 50% or 0 compatibility depending on this pattern of inheritance. Case 3, a 42-year female with previous 3 pregnancy, multiple blood transfusion. Her first transplant was done in the 2014, kidney rejected in 2019. she was not able to find a second donor for transplantation. She registered for the disease donor transplant registry and she was on a waiting list. She received 9 calls for the registry and all the crossmatches were positive. The single antigen test was done for this patient recipient, and we found that there are lots of MFI values are there which are more than 1,000, and this patient contained a very high titer of donor specific antibodies. So 3 donors typing was done: donor 1, donor 2, and donor 3. And donor 3 was found to be compatible with this recipient depending on the single antigen test result. And then the transplant was done as the Luminex crossmatch was negative. Transplant went uneventful and patient is doing clinically fine now. The inference of this test detects that all the patient to be checked for the single antigen test if they are crossmatch, their crossmatch is positive. HLA typing of all disease or donors should be done and they should be taken on a priority if they are highly sensitized on the virtual crossmatch. This is some of our work distribution in the department. So 60% of the cases we get from the renal specialty, 25% from the liver, and 7% from the bone marrow transplant specialty. We try to study the if there is any differences between the alleles of the south and north region of the India, but we observe that the common allele distribution is more or less same for the south and north population. We get most of our liver related cases from the south, and there is a 25% cases are from the pediatric population. As I told you, the HLA has a role in other diseases also. So in one of the diseases like Behçet diseases, we found the positivity of around 27 to 28% for the loci B5 and B51 in our study population. Single antigen positivity our rate is 20 to 25%, which is matching with all the literature. BK virus, which has a post-transplant nephropathy associated with the post-transplant nephropathy, we do the PCR test by the blood from the blood and urine sample, and overall positivity rate was found to be 23% for both the sample. USP of our lab is we are NABL accredited lab. We provide the cutting edge clinical testing for the clinical solid organ and stem cell transplantation. Newer technology like Luminex based anti-donor antibodies are available with us. We also offer tests like sequence based HLA typing and flow cytometry. We have the fastest turnaround time in the market with the same day reporting of the cases. Pre-transplant customized packages are offered to the clinician. All pre-transplant and post-transplant related work, starting from serology, HLA testing, histopathology, ISC for the C4D, CMV, SV40, immunofluorescence, microbiology, molecular studies, and viral markers are done under one roof by the expert panels. These are some of the common instruments we use in our HLA lab. Inverted phase contrast microscopy for the CDC crossmatch, nano photometer for the DNA quantification, Variety thermal cycler for the PCR and hybridization, and Luminex for the Luminex crossmatch and DASA typing and single antigen test. This is our department and the transplant immunology and immunogenetics department team. This is our chemistry team department. So beside the HLA test, we have the other menu for the chemistry related tests, like we measure the GFR with the cystatin C, creatinine, other drugs level like the tacrolimus, cyclosporine at the start of the treatment, then the monitoring and the post dosage adjustment. These tests are done in-house on the LCMS, which is the most robust and sensitive assay. These are the other tests available with the Metropolis for the NephroMet. Histopathology for the H&E and the immunofluorescence study, and acute and hyperacute renal biopsy studies. Renal transplant related tests I have already mentioned. For HLA-PRA identification and class 1 and class 2 donor specific antibody, single antigen test, then lymphocyte cross-match. We have also started a HLA pre-transplant workup, which consists of HLA typing, then PRA screen and donor typing, which gives a complete report to the clinician for better interpretation of the results. We can be reached on following numbers. This is our department email address. Thank you. If any questions are there, I will be happy to answer that question.
Thank you, Dr. Sanjay. That was an excellent presentation. And I hope everybody has learned or understood what we are up to. I just like to add one more thing, that we have always been talking about renal. So renal was one of the bigger transplant sessions which were going on in the country. But with the advent of COVID, I'd just like to tell you that there has been some incidences in which they have reported cases of even a lung transplant happening. Because what happens is, when the lungs have been shown a lot of fibrosis as occurs, this is quite irreversible. And the only way to go ahead with it is to go ahead for a lung transplant, which is also becoming one of the cases. So I think as far as transplant immunology is going on, it's only going to develop still further. And we would be having more and more cases going on as the understanding also goes. And we would like the help of the clinicians for us to create a kind of a pre-transplant package and also a post-transplant package, which we could continue. So it becomes very easy for everyone to indicate, in a post-transplant, you need to do the tacrolimus monitoring, you need CBC, you need to do the bun creatinine. Because we are giving steroids and all these things, they are very prone to diabetes. So the sugar has to be monitored. The tacrolimus drugs and all, which are given as suppressants, bring down the magnesium, phosphate. So all these levels, vitamin D, so all these levels need to be monitored. So if we could have a package which is created, and I request the clinicians who are to give us the support for that, it would be very helpful for everyone to monitor the same. I've also seen a few questions which have come up. So Dr. Sanjay, the questions which are there, I could just ask you. Now, DSA we have spoken about. So DSA, when do you recommend doing a DSA? Someone has asked, is pre or post-transplant? How do you do that? What would you suggest?
So DSA basically ideally should be done before transplantation to know the donor specific antibodies. If it is not done pre-transplantation, then if there is a single antigen is also available, then you can go ahead with the single antigen test. In a highly sensitized patient, the PRA, it's a better solution rather than the DSA. And then you can go ahead with the single antigen test. In the post-transplant scenario, if it is uneventful transplant, then it is done at 0, 15 days, then 1 month, 3 months, and 6 months, and at the end of the 1 year.
But how long do you store the DSA?
We keep the sample for at least 2 years at -80 degrees centigrade in the department. So it helps in the monitoring of the donor specific antibody monitoring.
I hope that answers the question. We have another question which has just come around. And for cadaveric transplant, what is the turnaround time which you take, and how fast should it be done?
Basically, the cadaveric transplant is an emergency transplant. So the fastest test should be offered. So in our department, for the CDC cross-match, we give the reports within 3 hours. And for the DSA cross-match, we give reports within 4 to 6 hours.
We have another question. Yeah, tell me.
Yeah,
Sorry?
Because now with the advent of facilities like the air ambulances and transfer of the patient to the donor site where the cadaver is there, this has led to the emergency. In the emergency, we should provide the reports for the CDC and the DSA cross match. So the TET should be at minimum at the possible.
Yeah, because the cadaveric cells will start lysing, so the reaping of
Yes, the viability of the cells will be
lymphocytes,
deteriorated in the
which
cadaver.
is also, I think, one of the problems we have when we are getting samples transported from different regions. That if they are not transported in proper conditions, we do tend to get, the cells do lie.
False positive reaction in the CDC cross match.
Yeah, so
So in
these
such
also,
scenario, the DSA antibody test helps now rather than the CDC cross match. It can be a false positive if the viability of the lymphocyte is lost and integrity of the sample is not maintained, then it can give a false positive test now in the cadaveric transplant.
I sometimes, when you think about cadaveric transplants, and they are, if you do for a kidney, for example, 2 kidneys, and there are 4 or 5, people, recipients waiting, I think it's a clinician has a very tough time in deciding, and best the clinicians can answer is as to who to give the kidneys to. So probably this is one of the most heartbreaking things which people must be facing. It's not very easy for them to decide. Dr. Sanjay,
The
if someone,
most suitable transplant recipient gets ma'am the final donor graft, ma'am. So if it matches, and it is also depends on the other clinical conditions and the age of the patient. If it is the younger patients are preferred over the older patient, ma'am. And the how suitable is the graft with the recipient, that matters, ma'am, depending on the single antigen test and the donor specific antibodies. If the donor specific antibodies are on the higher side for one particular recipient, then the recipient is selected based on the proper DSA antibody and single antigen test. So minimum the donor specific antibody or the DSA single antigen test, that recipient gets the final graft.
there is another question which is there, is that how does multiple pregnancy affect transplant? I think it is meant that multiple pregnancy, will it make a difference in picking up the antibodies?
Yes, ma'am. Every pregnancy, it's like a sensitization event. So it is observed that 30 to 50% of the woman develops a donor-specific antibody post pregnancy, ma'am. And in some of these females, this antibody goes down with the subsidizes with the time. In some of the women, this stays for the longer time. And this can affect the future means transplantation and organ survival if the patient requires a transplantation in future.
We have one more question, that what role does histopathology play? I mean, we are pathologists also. So histopathology in has a role to play with the pre and post. How do you think that works?
For pre-transplantation to basically to diagnose the renal condition which has led to the chronic renal failure, there we have the role of histopathology. And in the post-transplant, they have the main role in the acute and chronic renal rejection, where the renal biopsy can be studied for the IHC like the C4D, SV40, CMV. This can be immunofluorescence can be also, it's a major role in the post-transplant kidney biopsy rejection detection. So we can see the glomerulonephritis, then capillaritis. These are the common fibrinoid necrosis. These are the common findings we observe in the renal biopsy after it is a acute or hyperacute renal rejection, renal transplant rejection.
As you said, it's a multi-department workup which is there. All the departments have to work in synergy. There's another very interesting question. Does Metropolis offer enterotoxin test for dialysis water?
No,
Yeah.
No, currently we are not offering these tests, ma'am.
I can't see any more questions. If there are any more questions, that'd be nice to answer. So it looks like we have you've managed to you have totally covered all the topic very well. And yeah, we've had shortcomings because almost for a year the transplant were actually kept in limbo because people were so scared about COVID, and immunosuppression is one of the reasons in which people are able to catch the infection. But now, though they say the second wave is getting over now and third wave is going to come, but I think people cannot hold on much longer. You have to do. So the transplant pathology is starting all over again, and it's going to be picking up. And we request everyone to please give us any inputs, any suggestions, anything which you would like us to recommend. We could have some packages for people who are during dialysis, because they are being worked up for a transplant ultimately. So those things we could be looking, and post transplant, anything particularly would you like us to measure? Of course, I'm sure everyone knows that we do tacrolimus by LCMS methodology also, along with the CMIA, and these tests we are offering. They're the latest, the technologies which are there. And we look forward to any queries or questions. As Dr. Sanjay has already put, all the questions could be addressed to them, and we'd be very happy to answer. So thank you very much, all the participants. Thank you for taking off time to attend our webinar and to give us your support. And we look forward to working together. Thank you, Dr. Sanjay, very much. It was very clear, and I'm sure the department you are building up will go in a long way, and so we'll have many new technologies coming up. And thanks for attending.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, audience.
Have a good evening. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Thank you.